Hey, what's up everyone? So I should have made this update video a long time ago, but today actually does mark something very significant in the Coast City story. So I think that a Coast City update is very appropriate for today. So a few years ago, I started reading my Bible from beginning to end. I'm not at the end yet, I'm only in Matthew. It's taken me like 3 years to get there. But what that would typically look like, especially at first, was I'd wake up in the morning, I'd read a couple chapters, and then I'd pray, and that'd be it. That wasn't until I got to the book of Psalms, and I felt like God was impressing on me to start writing things down. And so I grabbed a journal that I had for a long time, and I just started writing. And if I look at my first entry, it was actually in Psalm 43. And I just had a few notes and some prayer. What I didn't know at the time was that by starting this practice, it would start documenting some very significant, powerful things that was going to happen in our life. So whenever I flip through this, I see some really cool things. For instance, on August 17th, just a few days after I started, I have a note on here saying we were headed to Ocean Springs, Mississippi to look at a model home. What many of you may not know was we were living in Alabama and we were about 45 minutes from the church we were serving at, and driving back and forth was just, it was becoming a lot. So we wanted to be closer. The good news for us was that there was a new neighborhood about 20 minutes out from the church, and we were very interested. Problem was they didn't have a model home available. The closest one was Ocean Springs, Mississippi. And so we drove on August 17th. We drove to Ocean Springs, Mississippi, a place we've never been before, to walk through a model home for that new neighborhood in Alabama. Long story short, we fell in love with it and we signed the contract to start having that house built in Alabama. But plans quickly changed because on August 29th, just 20 days after I started journaling, I have an entry that is very significant. I had coffee with JM. He asked if we would pray about starting a church in Biloxi, Mississippi, praying for wisdom, continued confirmation, and a broken heart for the people who live there. I'm excited and terrified all at the same time. The JM in this entry is John McIntosh. He was a pastor at Worship on the Water at the Floribama Church in Orange Beach. And he had two business people come visit his church one weekend. And they're from Biloxi, and they bought an old church that's basically been empty for 20 years because of hurricane damage. And they were in the middle of renovating it so it can be an Airbnb, office space, and a music venue. But after experiencing the worship at Floribama, they were like, why don't we do this at our place? And so they approached John McIntosh about it, and he was like, I know a guy. John and I had several conversations about something that God was doing inside of me and Lauren's hearts for 2 years of feeling like he was building us up for something, but we just didn't know what it was. But our yes was already on the table. We already surrendered to, like, God, we love where we're at, and we'd be more than happy with staying where we're at. But there's just this feeling that you're preparing something else for us. And so here's our yes, and when that door opens, we're gonna walk through it. And so August 29th marks the day when God opened that door. I knew almost immediately that this is what God was preparing for us to do. I can remember leaving that meeting and calling Lauren and being like, you're not gonna believe this. The place that we just visited like 7-8 days ago to go look at a model home, I think God might be asking us to move there and start a church in Biloxi. And if you were to ask Lauren, she would tell you the same thing. As soon as she heard about it, she knew that this was what we were supposed to do. And so August 29th is a very special day for us, but there's more. As I look through these journals, I see different things like doubt of like, man, did God really call me to do this? Did God call the right guy? I don't know if I'm the right person. And then days of like, I feel confident. Yeah, we're determined to make this work. And there's times of asking God for prayer because things are not working out the way we expected them to. But then there's also times of like God showing up. There's a moment in here, an entry where we had an unexpected bill show up. We're like, oh gosh, this is a lot of money. And then within a week, we got a check for almost the exact amount. And so it's just been amazing to see the ups and downs of life. But the one persistent, consistent thing is that God's been good and God has always been faithful through it. And then we get into January and we start seeing Coast City stuff, like our very first interest meetings and the names of the people who showed up, many of which those people are still with us today. And as we just move forward, I see a note on our worship night and a verse that Morgan shared with us, and it says, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin, to see the plumb line in Zerubbabel's hand." And I think about that verse a lot, how God is excited about his work getting started. And then we skip over to April and we see a note on April 9th, which was our launch Sunday. And I just see a note of just thanking God, just being so grateful for what he's done. It was just an amazing day, that to dream about something, have a vision for something for months and months and months, and then you're standing there and it's like, God did it. There's no other explanation. Like, this has nothing to do with me. It's just God put this together. And at the very end, it says, "I'm believing that you have something greater in store. Help me trust you deeper as we plow ahead. Shower our work and seeds with your spirit. God, bring the harvest." And he did. Just 10 weeks after that, we had an opportunity to participate in the first annual motorcycle rally called Bike in the Beach. And we were able to worship and preach on the main stage outside and share the gospel with people who maybe would not step inside a church. And it was a really cool opportunity. And it just so happened by coincidence that it aligned with our baptism Sunday that we had already put on the calendar before we even found out about the event. And so immediately after the service, we walked down to the beach and we baptized 2 people right there on the spot, which was incredible. And since launching Coast City Church, we've just seen God bless us in some extraordinary ways. We've seen a new face nearly every single week since that very first Sunday. We've seen lives changed. We've seen people reach for Christ. We've seen people who have never darkened the doors of a church before start coming to church and getting involved. We've seen community happen, and people who've bounced from church to church just trying to find a home, find a place at Coast City Church. And that's probably one of the coolest things about what God's doing through our church. If you've ever been to Coast City, or you know someone who has been, one of the things that I hear all the time, people say, it feels like coming home. There's a spirit of peace, there's a spirit of rest at Coast City. And I love that about our church, because I feel like life is crazy and we need a literal sanctuary to get away from it. And sometimes we chase the wrong things to be our sanctuary, but God is using what we're doing to be that place for a lot of people. But even better than that is that God has recently given us an opportunity to do that outside of our 4 walls. A few weeks ago, I was driving down the beach and there's this pavilion at Lighthouse Park. And every time I would pass it, I'd be like, God, I feel like we're supposed to do something with that. And I feel like it has something to do with the homeless community. I just don't know what it is. And so, I was just praying about it. And then about a week later, somebody in our church came to me and said, hey, I ran into this person at the gym. And their church, based out of Ocean Springs, hosts an outreach service every Thursday night at Lighthouse Pavilion. And she continued to say, it's amazing because the homeless community comes and they get fed and there's clothes and they get the word and they get to worship. And I was like, this is exactly what I've been praying about. And so I met with Pastor Daniel at New Beginnings Church in Ocean Springs and said, hey, we'd like to partner with you any way that you need us. And so we have an official partnership now where we help with the food, we help with the clothes. And if Pastor Daniel needs a break, we'll bring the word and the worship just to bless their church and to bless the community of Biloxi. And so we're just grateful that God is opening these doors as we're praying for them to reach the community outside our 4 walls and inside our 4 walls. For example, just recently I met with Jason and Jen, the owners of the sanctuary, and we were talking about church stuff. And I told them, I was like, I've got a lot of kids. And they're like, well, do you need another room for Sunday school? And I was like, yeah, I do. That would be awesome. And so I'm excited to be able to say that within the next month, we'll be offering Coast Kids during the preaching segment of the service so that our kids can be discipled on their level on Sunday mornings. And so I just want to say thank you for praying for us, encouraging us, and for your generosity, because none of this would be possible without any of that. We could not do this on our own. I hope you know that anytime you pray for our church or give to our church, you're not just helping an organization, but you're helping the gospel be lived out in the stories of real people. People like Fred, who has a powerful story. And if you haven't heard his story, you need to jump on our website and listen to it. It was 2 weeks ago. But he got baptized that day. And because of his baptism, 3 other people said yes. And they got baptized the exact same Sunday. And so God is doing amazing things here on the Mississippi coast. And it's amazing to think what 1 year can do. And that's probably the most exciting thing about all of this, is I look at my journal and I'm like, man, all these cool stories, but also like, look at all these blank pages. Like, there's still so much more that God can do. And I can't wait to write those things down and share them with you as they happen. Again, thank you so much for being part of the Coast City family. Whether you're here on the coast or you're here with us in spirit, you are helping us partner with God in what He's doing here. And we fully believe that He is just getting started and the best is yet to come.